in a universe where the only constant is change, attachment or greed in its extreme form is inherently unnatural and therefore leads to suffering. Welcome, friends. How do you like that for an intro? That actually is the essence of where we are now within our cultivation of the 6 spheres of the Dharmakaya. We have now come to the sphere of vimutti, the sphere of liberation. And you might ask, what are we liberating ourselves from? Well, in Buddhism, there's something called the kleshas. And forgive me as always if I'm mispronouncing the Sanskrit. It's basically the poisons. They're often depicted as 3 poisons, sometimes 5. It's really just the same 3, but then there's just kind of like offshoots of 2 of them. But they all come out of one primary poison, okay, that we want to liberate ourselves from. And that poison is the closest thing in Buddhism to what we would call sin, which is ignorance, which I got to be real clear, is a world of difference, a universe of difference from unawareness. The term ignorance is bliss is not true. Ignorance, quite frankly, is hell, which just means the highest levels of suffering. Unawareness might be bliss. We don't know that we don't know. But once you know better and you ignore it, that's willful blindness. And that is basically what all the suffering is coming out of on this planet. You know, quite frankly. We know better than fossil fuel. We know better than the business of war. We know better than so many of the things that are just so common. And there's, again, a universe of difference between what is common and what is normal. Okay? So this sphere of the Dharmakaya, the sphere of vimutti, liberation, we've sequentially gone through the previous 4 spheres. The sphere of Dharma, feeling, memory, thought, awareness, and the pattern of all those phenomena and permanence. The sphere of sila, morality, okay, to cultivate morality, right speech, right action, right livelihood. The sphere of samadhi, concentration, right effort, right mindfulness, right concentration. The sphere of wisdom, right understanding and right intent. Well, quick review, right understanding is the Four Noble Truths, suffering is attachment, joy is letting go, the intention to practice that systematic letting go. That sphere expands. Okay, this is the next sphere. Well, what are we letting go of? The kleshas, the 3 or 5 poisons, but again, they all come out of ignorance. So kind of like this elemental sphere, this spiraling, 4 spokes all connected to the central sphere. So like these 5, 4 and 5 are really the same in this practice. You have the 4 directions, the 5th direction is the center, okay? So you've got the 5 poisons, ignorance is at the center. And so when we spin the sphere at this sphere of the practice, this stage of the practice, we're attracting to us, kind of like we did with the sphere of morality, the impetus to kill, the impetus to steal. You're using this to dissolve. Well, now we're using that, sphere of sila, samadhi, and pana, the Eightfold Noble Path, in essence, as a cosmic super blade to chop off these, poisons. I mean, my yoga teacher, who later became an ordained Buddhist monk, he used to say one of his things that Buddhism is like a perfect super blade. It destroys everything, including itself. And that sounds scary or whatever, but you got to think like if you, anywhere you want to go, you need a vehicle to get there. And once you get to that destination, you got to get out of the vehicle. And a lot to really embody, where you're at, to really experience the destination. And a lot of times with practitioners of their system, they're so it's so high level, they can't let it go, whatever. It's like, no, my way or the highway and all that stuff. Well, even Buddha himself said there'll come a time where, we'll either be so high vibrational that we won't need, Buddhism as it exists today, or everything's impermanent, including, the systems that are designed to help you align with that impermanence. Okay, so anyway, just a little soundbite from my yoga teacher, who again has subsequently become a Buddhist monk, so he knows a little something about this. Bottom line, what we're doing in this practice is The same thing, we keep emptying ourselves to the center, letting this pearl spin, let it spin, let it spin. We're going to drop into that same center with our mind at rest and rest. The previous 4 spheres of the Dharmakaya, the sphere of Dhamma, feeling, memory, thought, awareness, the sphere of Sila, Samadhi, Pana, they all fall into the same center. And out of that right intent to relax and let go of the unhealthy attachment that leads to suffering, we're chopping off the 5 poisons. And I mean, again, you got what they are because I keep talking about ignorance, although again, that's the main, because if you ignore these 5 poisons once they come up, well, because the first one is aversion. Okay, in general, people when they say they talk about the 3 poisons, they're generally talking about ignorance is the main one, and hatred and greed. Well, what is the seed of hatred? Is anger. And what is the seed of anger? Is aversion. It's wanting something to stop. It's get away from me. That's what anger is, that disgust, that aversion. And sometimes there's healthy versions of that. There's lots of things in the world I'd like to stop. The aforementioned business of war and other stuff. But it's that holding on to it, like the famous saying of the emotional state, that Buddha would say, being angry is like drinking poison and hoping someone else dies. So in general, that's the most destructive human emotion, is anger, and the seed of it which is aversion, okay? So ignorance, the yang negative emotion, you could say, which is aversion, anger, hatred. The yin negative emotion, greed, well, the seed of greed is attachment. Right? So anger, aversion, get away. Attachment, come here, I can let go, can let go. And extreme attachment is greed, which again, in an impermanent universe, is inherently unnatural and therefore leads to suffering. That's why I mentioned that opening line at this stage of practice. So right there, what is the ignorance? It's knowing that, well, in an impermanent universe, maybe I could be a little more fluid and so forth, but no, I like that. I'm holding on to it. Or no, I hate that. Get away. That's ignoring what you know better. That's the willful blindness, and then you're getting engaged with the cycles of suffering. So those are the 3 main poisons, okay? Ignorance at the center, aversion, anger, hatred, although I just call it aversion in my practice, because if you can chop it off at the, nip it in the bud, so to speak, it will never escalate to anger and hatred, the most destructive of human emotions. And then same thing, with greed, I nip it in the bud with attachment. So we're dealing with aversion, we're dealing with our ignorance at the center, aversion, and then attachment. And then the other 2, which I said are kind of like offshoots of the aversion and the attachment. And I'll just go through them in the cycle we're going to use. We've got aversion, pride, attachment, envy, and then ignorance at the center. So first your aversion, no, I hate that. Then, because one of the strongest desires or strongest tendencies, and we get into psychology and NLP and stuff, is the desire to stay consistent with how we define ourselves. So once you establish, no, I don't like that, I'm averse to that, now we have pride, aversion, pride, rather than say, no, I was wrong, or maybe I was just, acting, because it's the reptilian brain, it kicks in. That's what road rage is about. You're out there and someone cuts you off, and sure, I don't want that to happen. Yes, I'd rather stop that to happen. But then the people that go and kill that person, whatever, they overreact, and then later they're like, how could I ever do that? And I'm not kidding. I've seen in LA, guys get out of the car and they start pummeling people, and people go nuts. It's not a joke, road rage. That's all reptilian brain stuff. And if you can just take that deep breath or 2, that will relax and you can have access to your intelligence. You're just acting on that reptilian, fight or flight level. You know what I mean? So that's all kind of what we're talking about here. Take that moment. Okay, I'm feeling aversion. Let me see what's the skillful way to deal with this. Maybe yes, something I need to stop in my environment, but that out of control, aversion, anger, hatred stuff, that'll get us in big trouble. And then the pride attached to it. Not only am I angry, I'm proud about it. And then I'll never apologize my whole life and stuff. Pride, people get into, okay? So aversion, pride, attachment, and then the one attached to that is envy. So the people that are the most attached or the most greedy have the most wealth. Well, everyone's so, oh my God, I love you, I'm envious, you have it all, whatever. But are they really happy is another question. All those people hoarding the wealth. We talk about, 1% of the population. This is public figures you see on Facebook and stuff now about, how the top 80, however many people control more wealth than the, lowest 4 billion people on the planet, whatever. That's public figures. They say, and they have for years, that 1% of the population controls, the high 90%, 95% or more of the wealth. I think that's cooked figure, in my humble opinion. It's really 1% of 1%. It's a few handful of families that just have it all. And And you know, whatever, that's the system we're in, but are they really happy is another question. So anyway, the envy that we have of the people that are the most greedy, all right? So aversion, pride, attachment, envy, and ignorance in the center. It's like we know better. We know aversion, pride, attachment, envy aren't good, but somehow, no, I'm going to stick with that. And out of that ignorance, we're going to suffer our butt off. It's literally our choice. Chi flows when the mind goes. And this gives you a method, again, not because I said so or anybody else, to examine, is aversion healthy? Is pride healthy? Is attachment healthy? Is, you know, envy healthy? Is ignorance itself healthy? And what does that basically mean? In this practice, bring it back to your center. Because if as above, so below, this is the universal body. If it's truly the universal body and the intelligence and radiance and infinite energy that is in an infinite energy universe, infinite, okay? If I know I'm connected to it, I can bring my attention back. A lot of the struggles, you know, in this realm that we witness come out of the violation of people's free will, quite frankly, trying to control and all this. Work on yourself. People want to control everything outside, but can you work on yourself? So as we talk about ignorance, you're ignoring your true center. Bring it back to your center. Work on your own internal landscape. And the chi flows where the mind goes from that center, like at the end of this practice, we always wish. It's like, okay, now we've worked on ourselves and we're reconnecting, you know, from that purified space out in every direction and you know, kind of like blessing all beings of all realms and so forth with our good intention to cultivate, you know, for ourselves and all sentient beings, the cessation and chopping off of suffering, okay? So that's kind of the intellectual definition or whatever context for this practice that we're going to be doing. The mechanics of it are exactly the same. We bring our attention to this crystal sphere behind the navel, between the navel and the door of life, where you feel the energy the strongest. And again, some people feel it smaller, like in Chinese medicine. The true dantian, the elixir field, is usually a full 4 fingers breadth below the navel. You know, acupuncture, Ren 3. The third point, or excuse me, 4, Ren 4. The fourth point on the, this is the Ren meridian up the front of the body. It's below the navel, okay? But some people feel it higher, whatever. That's just why I say between the navel and the back, point of the spine and the back, door of life, where you feel it the strongest. It might be right at the navel. Some people feel it a little bit below, like the people that originally taught this practice to me. They all do solar plexus. I just invite you to bring your attention to the region behind the navel, where you feel your center of gravity is strongest, and visualize a crystal clear sphere of light there. And then samadham as a repetitive word, or stop and stop, still, clear and clear, to just purify your mind, kind of first level. Once you can really see and feel the pearl though, you won't really need the internal mantra. You just keep emptying the layers of yourself, moment by moment, breath by breath, heartbeat by heartbeat, the radiant nucleus of the pearl. And we go in order of the 6 spheres of Dharma. The sphere of Dharma, feeling, memory, thought, awareness. That sphere of Dharma expands. We're inside that purified awareness, and then we sequentially bring each of the layers of the Eightfold Noble Path, starting with Sila, morality, okay? And its 3 spheres of Sila, right speech, right action, right livelihood, fall to the same center. That sphere expands. Sphere of Samadhi with its 3 spheres, 3 more folds of the Eightfold Noble Paths. We have 3 for Sila, 3 more, so we're at 6 of the 8. Okay, right effort, right mindfulness, right concentration, fall to that same center. That sphere expands. Now we're at the sphere of wisdom, the one we did on the last video, right understanding that suffering is attachment, joy is letting go, and the right intention to practice that skillful letting go. That sphere expands by itself, and now we're sitting inside of even more purified and radiant sphere, which is the sphere we're working on today, vimutti. Liberation. We want to liberate ourselves from these 5 poisons. The poison of aversion, pride, attachment, envy, and ignorance itself. And as the pearl spins, we're going to systematically dissolve those. The more you relax and let go, the more room for fresh energy there is. If the cup is full, there's no room to put it in there. So a lot of people will get into Buddhism, or won't get into Buddhism. They'll see it and they'll be like, no, I don't want to let go. I want to, you know what I mean? You have to let go first. It's not, you know, all about whatever you think it's all about. I mean, you've got to, in an impermanent, you don't have to do anything, but in an impermanent universe, to have a way to relax and let go, then there's room for fresh energy. It's not just, and some people do go a little extreme. I mean, to your reservation that you might be having, so anyone can have extremes. So yes, there are, and I say it with humility, and that's even why I'm presenting this, because little refinements I made to make it work for myself as a lay person, not a monk, is, in my humble opinion, I think that there is a tendency with sometimes in the field of Buddhism, which is an enormous field, to be a little too extreme. Oh yeah, that hunger in your body, it's impermanent, don't worry about it. Or whatever, the needs of the body, quite frankly, sometimes, we negate in the monks, and I don't have any judgment over it, but it is, again, just sharing my own personal experience. One of the main reasons why I didn't choose official monkhood, because I'm pretty close. I mean, I do that level of practice every day and have for almost 20 years. I mean, I've got one foot in hardcore cultivation for many, many years. Is their food, their relationship with food. I won't even talk about their relationship with sex, but food, they don't eat after noon. One of their priests said they don't eat after midday. They have juices and whatever, but sorry, no. This is a physical, this human birth is the rarest birth, and this gets into the whole thing. I'm not challenging anybody, and certainly not the Buddhist monks, because they have a very, very auspicious place they're holding, and that clear, pure light of the time-tested teachings laid out by the Buddha. So I'm not challenging him or any of that wisdom. I'm just saying, for me personally, to go and live in the world and do the things, I need to eat. So anyway, I'm just saying that to go too far, anything can be too extreme, okay? So for me, this was the middle way of the middle way, was this practice and how I'm presenting it. So anyway, can't quite even remember where I was there. Bottom line, we bring our awareness to the sphere of Dharma, feeling, memory, thought, awareness. It expands. Then we bring each of the layers of the Eightfold Noble Path, Sila, Samadhi, Panna, and then now we're at the sphere of vimutti, liberation, where we're using that Eightfold Noble Path as the cosmic super lightsaber that it is to chop off the 5 poisons, okay? Which again are really 3 to 5 or even 1. It all comes out of ignorance, so that's the main thing at the center. That ignorance, that willful blindness, not unawareness, that willfully, I know better, but I'm just going with the flow because it's convenient or whatever you think. You know what I mean? Okay, this will help you examine all that and see, is that really the best way for me to go? And because I just went through all that, that is kind of the rapid version, what I just said. You just bring each one, let it fall to the same center, boom, boom, boom. So for the practice meditation, rather than taking extra time like I did on the last video where we worked on the sphere of right understanding and right intent, the sphere of wisdom, Panna, last video, where I did kind of a short version and a long version. We'll just do the full version today, which means, namely, we're going to work with the elemental sphere first to balance our physical elements, and then to use that visualization of the spiraling pearl to attract into our center all these layers of the Eightfold Noble Path, Sila, Samadhi, Panna, and now vimutti, liberation, and attract and dissolve those 5 poisons, okay, kleshas, I mean, they don't call 5 poisons for no reason. They keep us totally rooted in suffering. It's just pure and simple. This dimension is about your suffering and your non-suffering. And once you see, I mean, it makes sense when you're angry. I mean, they say it takes 5 minutes of anger. 5 minutes of anger equals 5 to 6 hours of depressed immune system function. So you got to ask yourself, is it really worth it? Like, I'm like, okay, I'm seeing something in my external environment, or even internally, the environment of my thoughts or whatever, that I don't want, that I want to stop. That's what aversion is. Okay, that could be healthy. I mean, sure, I want to stop hunger. I want to stop the business of war. I want to stop, worldwide hunger and all this stuff. And that's also business too, by the way. Scarcity. Yeah, I want to stop that. But to sit here and be angry about it and waste my chi, that's not skillful. Right? So before I go and engage that, I'm going to take that deep breath. You could say, like, just do it in a systematic, skillful way, just pure and simple. So anyway, this will help you develop, again, that right relationship, all the right, the Eightfold Noble Path, you have right as the prefix to all of them, that right relationship, right understanding, right intent, right speech, right action, and so forth, all right? So, I think that's enough context. Certainly all I wanted to communicate as far as what the method is. We're using all that we've worked with so far to chop off the 5 poisons. So let's dive right into practice and see how we feel. Okay, just keep the body nice and relaxed. Ideally do a little bit of yoga and breathing first, pranayama and or qigong. I'll trust you have already done that. You could always like watch the context, then do a little breathing, then do the practice, but I leave that up to your good discretion as we go into practice together with the sphere of vimutti, liberation from the 5 poisons that cloud the mind and thereby cause suffering. Come to meditation, ideally after yoga and pranayama, and sit in any comfortable meditative position, with your tongue gently pressed to the roof of the mouth, your spine straight, and your hands in an open circuit, palms up, thumbs interlaced mudra. And establish a long, effortless belly breath. See the pearl in your center of gravity, crystal clear pearl of light, and breathe into it. Your belly expands as you inhale. And it flattens as you exhale. And continue to do that in long, effortless belly breaths. One of the easiest ways to go parasympathetic. Relax your heart rate, relax your thought rate. Long, effortless belly breathing into the radiant crystal sphere behind your navel where you feel the energy the strongest. And with your eyes, your mind, the totality of your awareness effortlessly dropped to the radiant nucleus of that sphere in the center of your effortlessly breathing belly, bring the layers of your mind, feelings, memory, thought, awareness. Everything you feel, remember, think, and are aware of. Drop it all to the center, the radiant nucleus of the pearl, and mentally recite the words Sama Arahang, Sama Arahang, Sama Arahang to purify the sphere. The mental recitation of Sama Arahang, Sama Arahang, Sama Arahang allows the mental aggregates of feeling, memory, thought, and awareness to fall into oneness until the sphere becomes translucent and still, and the radiant nucleus of it expands by itself to surround the body of the meditator, such that you are now sitting inside the radiant crystal sphere. At which time, immediately return your awareness, your eyes, mind, and awareness to the radiant nucleus of the pearl and the center of your effortlessly breathing belly, and you will see another pearl, the elemental sphere that has 5 smaller spheres inside of it. A red fire sphere in the front, a blue water sphere in back, a green wind sphere on the left, a yellow earth sphere on the right, with a crystal clear white space sphere in the center, and 4 thin lines connect the fire, water, earth, wind sphere to the central space sphere, and keep emptying your eyes and your mind to the radiant nucleus of the pearl at the center of the space sphere, emptying all of your cognition. It's like the 5 dense elements: fire, water, air, earth, space, and then the element of cognition itself, and the radiant nucleus of the pearl. The most radiant, purified awareness itself. Keep emptying your awareness, each feeling, memory, thought, awareness, feeling, memory, thought, awareness, until that elemental sphere begins spiraling and equalizing your physical elements. Fire and water, hot and cold, front and back become equal and balanced of the spiraling pearl as it spins to the right and spins to the right, equalizing stable earth, subtle air, left and right sides of your body, equal and balanced in the center, and let it spin and let it spin. Almost like you're putting your whole body in the nucleus of that pearl, and that nucleus will expand by itself to give way to an even more radiant and refined pearl, the sphere of sila, morality. And you see that the sphere of morality has 3 spheres, 3 folds of the Eightfold Noble Path: right speech, right action, right livelihood. Right speech has 4 layers, and we have to let go of the wrong speech to make room for that right speech. Those 4 layers are false speech, malicious speech, harsh speech, and useless speech. You just see the sphere spiraling in your center of gravity as you keep emptying yourself to it perpetually, and you see it spinning, attracting, and dissolving any impetus to engage in false, malicious, harsh, or useless speech. And let it spin, dissolving those tendencies until a new pearl by itself will expand and surround your body, and you'll see a new pearl in the center. The second sphere of Sila, right action, which has 4 layers as well. Do not kill, steal, sexually misconduct, or intoxicate yourself. So allow the pearl to spin and attract the impetus to kill, steal, perform sex that's bad for you, bad for others, or have intoxicating substances that are bad for you and bad for others. Let it spin and let it spin, dissolving those tendencies until the center, radiant center of that pearl expands by itself, and the third and final sphere of Sila, right livelihood, appears. And it doesn't have 4 layers like the previous 2, right speech, right action, but I simply just ask myself, what is right livelihood? What is a livelihood that's good for me, good for others? And I reflect on that from the radiant center of the center until that center becomes translucent and still and expands by itself to surround my body, and I'm sitting in an even more purified and radiant sphere. And return attention to the center of it and see another sphere, the sphere of samadhi, concentration, which has 3 spheres: right effort, mindfulness, and concentration. Right effort has 4 layers: prevent, abandon, develop, maintain. Preventing and abandoning the negative thinking and the negative attachments that cause suffering, and developing and maintaining the right thinking that leads to non-suffering and the highest joy for ourselves and all sentient beings. So just let the pearl spin in your center. Let it spin, let it spin. Prevent, abandon, develop, maintain. Prevent, abandon, develop, maintain. Letting the sphere of right effort to prevent, abandon, develop, and maintain spiral and spiral and spiral till it spirals itself into a translucent and still state around the radiant nucleus of the pearl until it expands again by itself, and you see the second sphere of the sphere of Sila. Right mindfulness, the 4 frames of mindfulness: body, feeling, mind, dharma. Body, feeling, mind, dharma. Mindfulness of body, mindfulness of feelings, mindfulness of thoughts, essentially, the mind, and mindfulness of dharma, the impermanent reality underlying those 3, body, feeling, mind, and all known phenomena. And the third sphere, in the sphere of samadhi, is concentration itself. So within body, feeling, mind, dharma, in Dharmakaya practice, we choose to concentrate on dharma. So just bring your awareness to that radiant nucleus of the center, which represents the dharma. The eye of the storm, the eye of the black hole. Or you could say the eye of the clear light hole. And let that clear light at the center of the center expand by itself to surround your body once again. And return awareness immediately to the center of the center, at which point you will see a new sphere. The sphere of wisdom, Pana, and it has 2 spheres: right understanding, right intent. There's 4 types of right understanding for the 4 noble truths. The truth that suffering exists and that it has a cause, the truth that non-suffering or joy exists and that it has a cause. And then the right intention to practice, put our attention where we want it. So between suffering, attachment, which is the cause of suffering, or joy and letting go, the cause of joy, where is our attention and intention best directed? In Dharmakaya practice, the 4th noble truth, the cause of joy, the skillful and systematic act of letting go is where we put our attention. So suffering, attachment, joy, letting go, let go, relax and let go to the radiant nucleus of the pearl in the center until that pearl expands by itself. And you are sitting inside of that beautiful, radiant, crystalline sphere. And return attention to the radiant nucleus of that sphere, and you see another sphere appear, the sphere of vimutti, liberation. And it has 5 layers for the 4 directions and then the center. We're using now the previous spheres we've worked on, dharma, sila, samadhi, panna, and that right intention to chop off the unhealthy attachments that cause suffering, to chop off the 5 poisons: aversion, pride, attachment, envy, and the ignorance that they all branch from. So just see the pearl spiraling in the center and see all of those poisons spiraling into the center. Dissolve them. It's out of your willingness to relax and let them go. Most of our suffering comes out of resistance. We don't even want to admit that we're experiencing those things. So recognize at any level that you can places in your life where you have aversion and pride connected to it, where you have attachment and envy connected to it, and the ignorance, ignoring the better way that you need to go. Let all of those poisons spiral into your center. Out of your willingness to relax and let go, they dissolve. Aversion, pride, attachment, envy. Aversion, pride, attachment, envy, and ignorance at the center. Let that pearl spin and relax and let go to the radiant nucleus of that spiraling crystalline sphere. Dissolve, relax, and let go. Aversion, pride, attachment, envy. Aversion, pride, attachment, envy. Aversion, pride, attachment, envy. All stemming out of ignorance, ignoring, willfully blind. Letting all of that ignorance and the poisons of aversion, pride, attachment, and envy spiral and dissolve into the radiant nucleus of the center until that center expands by itself, such that you are now sitting inside of an even more radiant and refined crystal sphere. At which time, first, last, and always, you want to connect your awareness, your eyes, your mind, your heart, and the totality of your awareness to the radiant center of the center, until that center becomes translucent and still, with your mind at rest in that radiant nucleus. And for just a few moments into that most radiant nucleus, relax and let go. Relax and let go each layer of your mind, each feeling, memory, thought, and awareness. Relax and let go. And as always, I invite you in your own practice to take a long time in this yin stage, receptive stage, meditation. You can even lay down and just bring awareness to how you're feeling as a result of your good effort, right effort to practice. When the time does come to conclude, bring awareness once again to the center of the most radiant pearl in your center of gravity. And whatever you feel on any level, feeling, memory, thought, awareness, bring that awareness to the nucleus of the pearl. Collect and concentrate it there and press save. And from that radiance, from that power, let us wish, by the power of our personal center and the universal center to which it is intimately and infinitely connected, so that we are wishing upon the universal power and not just our own that is limited. We are wishing upon the infinite power of the universal body to which we are consciously aligning, that we embody the highest levels of wellness and good fortune, and the ability to alleviate suffering for ourselves and all sentient beings. This wish of the highest wellness and good fortune, I think, I feel, I am.